We are going to learn how to measure out and divide up our mandala into 12 equal sections. To begin, you'll need your 8.5 by 8.5 inch square paper, a ruler, a compass, and a pencil. My first step is to make small dots around the outer edge of my paper at the halfway measurement. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to line up the zero of my ruler to the left edge of my paper, and this measures 8.5 inches. So half of 8.5 is 4.25. So I'm going to find my 4-inch mark, then my 1/4-inch mark, and I'm going to make a small mark right above 4.25 inches. I'm going to move my ruler to the top of my paper, and once again I'm going to line up the left edge of my ruler to the zero of my ruler to the left edge of my paper, and I'm going to make a mark at 4.25 inches there. I'm going to turn my paper 1/4 turn. So now my dots are on the left and right side, and I'm going to again measure along the bottom of my paper. So I am once again lining up the zero of my ruler to the left edge of my paper and making a mark at 4.25. Then I am moving my ruler to the top of my square, and once again lining up the zero of my ruler to the left edge of the paper, and once again making a mark at 4.25. So now I have 4 dots on the outer edges of my square. I'm now going to connect these dots to draw some light lines. I'm going to connect my dot that's at the top to my dot that's at the bottom, and I'm going to draw a line from the edge of my paper to the edge of my paper. I don't want to make it too dark. I'm going to do the same thing with the 2 dots on the left and right side. I'm going to turn my paper so I can see those dots better when I draw my line. So I am connecting the top dot to the bottom dot, and once again I am drawing a line from the top edge of my paper to the bottom edge of my paper, and again I don't need it too dark. Where they intersect, this is the middle of my paper. I'm going to just slightly darken that center with a small dot. I now need to make 2 more measurements around each outside of my square. And what these measurements are going to be is measuring the halfway distance between the 0 and the 4.25 inch mark, and the 4.25 inch mark and the 8.5 inch edge of my paper. So I am going to start at the bottom, and I want these at the very outer edge of my circle, of my square, and I'm lining up the 0 of the left edge of my paper, and half of 4.25 is 2 1/8. So I'm going to find my 2-inch mark and my 1/8 mark and make a dot right above it on my paper. I also need a dot on this side. So I'm going to add 2 1/8 inches to my 4 1/4. So 4 1/4 plus 1 inch is 5 1/4. 5 1/4 plus 1 inch is 6 1/4. And I need another 1/8 of an inch. So that will be 6 3/8. I'm going to make those same marks at the top of my paper. So I move my ruler to the top. On the left side of my paper, I am lining up the 0 of my ruler. And I am going to once again make a mark at 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. So now I need to make these same marks on the sides. So it's easier if I turn my paper, and once again at the bottom, line up the 0 of my ruler to the left edge of my paper and make a mark at 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. I'm going to move my ruler to the top of my paper. The 0 lined up to the left edge, and once again making a mark at 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. So when I am done, I now have 2 dots on each side of my square. I'm going to number these, and I'm going to start with the first dot at the top left of my square, and I'm going to number this number 1. I am going to go to this dot on the right and number it 2. I want to number this dot on the right 3. The dot on the lower right 4. The dot at the bottom on the right side of my paper 5. The dot on the lower left side of my paper 6. The dot along the side, left side at the bottom 7. And the dot at the side near the top 8. And these will be to help me plan out the sections of my mandala in a few minutes. My next step is to draw a circle. So I will need my compass. So this is going to be the very outer edge of our mandala design. I need to line up my circle, my compass, with that center dot in the middle of my paper. So if you have a compass like mine, that's going to be that small circle in the middle of this white moving piece. If you have an older compass, or a compass that has the 2 legs, where one is a point and one is the pencil, you want to have the metal point right there at the dot in the center of your square. Now, since we want our circle to take up most of our paper, I'm going to look for the dot, sorry, not the dot, the hole on my compass that will just reach to the outside of my paper all the way around. Okay, so for me, that is going to be way out here. And once I have that, then I'm going to draw my circle. All the way around my square. Now that I have my outer circle, this is where these outer dots are going to help me divide my circle up into 12 equal sections. So we are going to take dot number 1 and dot number 6, line those up with my ruler, and I'm going to draw a line from my outer edge of my paper at dot 1 down to the outer edge of my circle. And down below here, I'm going to draw a line from the outer edge of my paper at dot 6 to the outer edge of my circle. So it should look like that. I'm going to now do that with dots 2 and 5. So once again, I'm going to line up my ruler to dots 2 and 5. And from the outer edge of my paper at dot 2, I'm going to draw a line to the outer edge of my circle. And from the outer edge of dot 6, the outer edge of the paper, I'm going to draw a line to the outer edge of my circle. So it should look like this now. I'm going to turn my paper because it's easier for me to see my ruler that way. And I'm going to do the same thing with dots 3 and 8, and then 4 and 7. So starting with dots 3 and 8, I'm going to line those up with my ruler. And at dot 3, from the outer edge of the paper to the outer edge of my circle, I'm going to draw a line. And down at dot 8, from the outer edge of my paper to the outer edge of my circle, I'm going to draw a line. So it'll look like this right now. And now my final connection, dot 4 to dot 7. So once again, I'm going to line those up with my ruler. And from the outer edge of the paper at dot 4, I'm going to draw a line to the outer edge of my circle. And from the outer edge of the paper at dot 7, I'm going to draw a line to the outer edge of my circle. If I turn my paper back so I can read my numbers, your paper should now look like this. You need to make sure that every numbered dot has a straight line that connects to the outer edge of the circle. Now that we have this, we are ready to divide our circle into triangular pieces. We are going to connect the outer edge of our circle, where these lines are, to other parts here. We're always going to pass through the center. So I'm going to start here where the line at dot 1 connects to the outer edge of my circle, and through the center of my circle, I'm going to connect to the line that touches the outer edge of my circle at 5. And once I have that lined up, I'm going to, from the outer edge of my circle, through the center of my circle, to the outer edge of my circle, draw a line. So it'll look like this. I'm going to do the same thing with 2 and 6. So I'm going to line up where line number 2 touches the outer edge of my circle, through the center of my circle, down here to where the line for dot number 6 touches the edge of my circle. And once I have that lined up, then from the outer edge of my circle, through the center of my circle, to the outer edge of my circle, I'm going to draw a line. So my paper looks like this now. I'm now going to connect 4 and 8. Or you could also do 3 and 7. Either one will work. So if I go with 3 and 7, I'm going to once again take my ruler, line it up to where the line from dot 3 touches the outer edge of my circle, go through the center of my circle, and line up to where the line at dot 7 connects to the outer edge of the circle. And once I have that lined up, I'm going to go from the outer edge of my circle, through the center, to the outer edge of my circle, and connect them with a line. And finally, my last 2 dots, 4 and 8. Once again, I'm going to line up the line from dot 4 that touches the outer edge of my circle, through the center, to the line from dot 8 that touches the outer edge of my circle. And once I have that lined up, I'm going from the outer edge of my circle, through the center of my circle, to the outer edge of my circle, to draw a line. And that is what you should end up with. Once this is finished, you now have 12 pie pieces that should be about the same size. This is where you will want to stop, observe your pieces. If any of them seem off, then you will want to go back and double check your measurements along the outer edge of the square and possibly have to redraw some of these lines. You are now ready to learn how to design your mandala